Yes, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jack Farmer. His name is Raj Giri, and this is the Wrestling Inc. News and Notes show. And have we got a show for you? We've got new AEW signings. We got the Bellas with new names, and we've got new locations for SmackDown. But before we get into all of that, Raj, thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Every week, man. Look forward to it.
Yeah, this is the fun show. We get to go off the rails a little bit more because we're not reviewing individual episodes. We just get to dive right into the news, right into the stuff that's really important to everybody. So if you're here, make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe. It's a new show, so it really makes a difference to have people hit that like button and share the show. Like I said, copy it, put it on social media, makes the show grow. All your friends will love you. It's good stuff, right, Raj?
Absolutely. We love doing it. And yeah, anytime you guys hit like or subscribe or leave a comment, it definitely helps us out. Or on the podcast version, if you leave a comment or give us a nice review, it really does help us out. And we appreciate it.
Yeah, give us one of those 5 stars. I'm going to, maybe we're not supposed to talk about this. We got a couple of 1 stars on there I wasn't too happy about from a couple of curmudgeons. Didn't really like what we were doing, but you guys can.
Us? Was it us or one of the other?
Not you and me, but
not
us. But
most of our reviews have been good.
All of ours have been great, but we got to help lift the team. This is where we got to be like Tom Brady and put the team on our back and carry us through. So we need everyone to go over to Apple Podcasts and leave a 5-star review and say some really, really nice stuff and get that back on track for us. And by the way, we got a good turnout already. Thanks to everyone coming through. We got Kevin McMullen. We got Tornado Anthony Weiss is representing 316 Day. Jonathan Santiago. We got Jane Young. We've got Jeffrey Sullivan. We've got Baby Ice, Sev Vervar, Ryan Ramirez, Keenan Mary, by the way, first in the chat, he claims, and he deserves that recognition. And M. Rouse in the house, as always. He says, "Here, Jack, I learned to change my name on YouTube. This is my real name from M. Rouse." So, Mike, you're always going to be M. Rouse in the house to me. I think I've said it too many times.
It has a nice ring to it.
It does. So very good turnout here. So thanks everyone. And be sure to comment and be a part of the chat. We love to interact with you guys. First bit of news today is some news I think is just good news. I think everyone will agree with. I can't imagine people disagreeing, but the Great Muta is being brought into the WWE Hall of Fame. This was on Wrestling Inc., written by Dakota Cohen, says, yet another inductee for the WWE Hall of Fame was announced yesterday, with the Great Muta joining the class of 2023 alongside Rey Mysterio and reportedly Stacy Keibler. While Muta had a legendary career in Japan across multiple different promotions over the years, he also made a name for himself in the United States, primarily in WCW. There, he made a name stateside, battling the likes of Ric Flair and Sting in WCW. With Sting under contract with AEW, the Nature Boy has been tapped to induct the former IWGP Heavyweight Champion. Raj, this feels like a slam dunk no-brainer.
Yeah, Great Muta. He's awesome. I started watching wrestling in the late 80s, and WWE was what first, kind of sucked me in. But Sting and the Great Muta, that feud, that really got me watching WCW. And I thought Muta was one of the coolest things. He'd do that backspring elbow and spit the mist. And he was just awesome. He just really stuck out to me. And kind of crazy to think, I'm pretty positive he's never had a WWE match.
I was thinking that you might be right.
Yeah, never did. But as far as someone from the U.S. to induct him, there's really 2 names, and it's Sting and Ric Flair. And Sting, obviously, with him being in AEW, I could see why he didn't get the nod. He would make the most sense. But
right,
Ric Flair, you want to get the biggest name possible, and Flair's it.
I feel like even if there was no history between the two, Ric Flair is just one of those guys that can induct anybody into the Hall of Fame, and you would say, yeah, well, that's good. That's a good pick.
Yeah. when they first said that Flair was going to induct somebody, I thought it might be Lex Luger, because he's another one that I could see. Sting would be the first choice, but Sting's with AEW, so Flair would probably be the next. And then someone mentioned Muta to me. I'm like, oh yeah, Muta makes a lot more sense. He retired this year for good. So yeah, I think it's obviously well deserved. Great Muta is one of the all-time greats, a legend. So awesome choice. And I like WWE acknowledging people that have never wrestled for them. I think that's really a cool move.
I think it makes the Hall of Fame seem like a bigger deal when they do that. It makes it feel more like a real Hall of Fame instead of it makes it feel more like a pro wrestling Hall of Fame instead of just a WWE Hall of Fame.
Right. Yeah.
And Muta was one of those guys. I'll admit I don't follow Japanese wrestling super closely, but there are certain people that always catch my attention and I watch. And Muta was just so cool and so different from anything stateside, and the mist and the face paint. And I remember when he'd get a title and he'd walk out and he would just drag the title instead of like wearing it. I thought this is the coolest, most, he just stood out to me so much. And his movements were different than anything I'd seen before. And he really captured my imagination. And I'm just a big fan of him going in. I still like the mist too. I don't know if he's the first one to do it, but first one I saw do it.
Yeah. Yeah, it was so cool. So yeah, I'd love to see it. So I mean, I used to love to see it. So I wouldn't be surprised if he did it at the Hall of Fame. But
I hope so.
Yeah,
just even in the air,
choice.
Triple H it. But let's chat about maybe some of the other people. And by the way, I want everyone in the chat to jump in on this. We still don't know who the other names are going to be in the chat. Let us know what your predictions of who you might think is going to be added to the Hall of Fame class this year. Raj, before we went live, I tell you, I'm terrible about remembering Hall of Fame stuff and guessing Hall of Fame stuff. Batista to me still seems like the slam dunk headliner. Yeah. But what about you?
Yeah, he's not going in this year. I'm pretty sure Ray is the headliner. And that is usually the case. The headliner is the first announced. I actually thought, since it's going to be in LA, it'd be The Rock, but obviously that's not the case. But yeah, I think it's Ray. Batista can't do it because of his movie schedule. So yeah, so Ray. The other one that's likely in is Stacy Keibler. PW Insider reported that she's in. Mick Foley had said that someone asked him to induct them into the Hall of Fame. I don't know if it's Stacy. I'm trying to think, because when I heard Stacy, I kind of assumed Tori Wilson.
Yeah.
But it could be Mick. Otherwise, who else do you think would call Mick to induct them? That's not already in.
Mick's one of those guys I think could induct anybody, kind of similar to Ric Flair, just because he's such a good speaker. But to your point, you want it to be someone who matches up a little bit. And I can only imagine, I feel like that's available. I mean, like the Dudley Boys, maybe Bubba Ray or someone like that, because she worked with them for a long time. But I don't know.
The Dudleys are in the Hall of Fame, right?
Oh, I thought you meant to induct Stacy Keibler.
Oh, no. Yeah. I was saying who is Mick Foley inducting if it's not Stacy Keibler?
Right. That's why I don't know who else would do Stacy Keibler, because I don't know who she has that close of a tie to outside of a Tori Wilson.
Right.
That said, I do want to backtrack and say I think Rey Mysterio is a great headliner. By the way, I should say, if he is the headliner, I think he's one of the all-time greats. And I know I throw that around a bit, but when you look at how long he's done it and how influential he's been and everything he's done, I mean, he's got to be up there as one of the all-time greats.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was thinking Lex Luger is a name that stands out to me. But go ahead. What were you gonna say?
Oh, someone mentioned
Mongo.
Yeah, Mongo for the Warrior Award, I think, is a great choice. He's obviously went through some hard times, and I think that's a great choice. My question with Ray: do you break kayfabe for a night with Dominic? I don't think you can.
No, not in the heat of it right now. It's too hot. If anything, I would say keep it separate. Maybe don't have Dom shown at any point. How would you feel if they did an angle during the Hall of Fame? Would you feel like that kind of lowers the Hall of Fame, or do you feel like that's good TV?
Well, they've never done one before, like an angle where someone's attacked, as part of storyline. Leo Bowden pointing out Great Kabuki was the first to use mist. I think he was. I think Muta was the first I've seen on American television.
Yeah.
But I could be wrong. Again, I started watching it in the late 80s. Conan's inducting Ray. And again, they've never done a storyline attack or anything. But they're Ray and Dominic. It's so heated. They're going out the next night. I can't see Dominic up there hugging Ray, and they're just like, all right, we're gonna, forget about kayfabe tonight. So I don't know.
I think it would just be bad. Like I'm not one of those people that get so upset when people don't act in character in certain situations, but the night before the big blow off to a very hot story to do it is just terrible timing. If it was something that's happening like a few months back or a month after, I'd feel totally different, but it's just, you can't do it right before the, like, even if it was a movie, like if you're watching a romance movie, I don't want to hear that the two actors hated each other right before the romance movie comes out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like that Julia Roberts, Nick Nolte movie. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, I do remember. I do remember that. Yeah, we're like, oh well, now I don't want to watch them pretend.
Right. Yeah.
But we've got a few people coming in here. Question from Sev for you, Raj, is: do you like WWE inducting active WWE stars into the Hall of Fame, like a Ray or an Edge?
I prefer that they don't. I'd like to see it be people that are retired, or like in the case of Ric Flair, who everyone knew was going to retire the next night. So I prefer they didn't do that, but it doesn't really bother me. But I prefer it be inactive wrestlers. But I just feel like this year they probably didn't have many options. So yeah.
Yeah. So I also agree. I think they should be kind of done, but also Edge was inducted when they didn't think he was coming back. So I don't know if that really counts. And if people come back, now they've done it enough that it doesn't bother me a whole lot. And Ray is, like I said, one of those guys that has done so much that's like, I mean, he's in. We all know he's in. You know what I mean? It's not like he's not going in. It's not like he's he could have retired 5 years ago and he'd have been in. But
yeah.
We also
agree. Retire than Hall of Fame. Jerry Lawler would be, Jerry Lawler, Jim Ross, when they're active commentators. Those are exceptions as well to me. But
now we got a few more. This is heating up. Tornado Anthony Y asks, what if they're saving a last-minute announcement for Rock for Hall of Fame this year? Roman interrupts to set up a match at next year's Mania.
I don't think you want to set up a match for next year's WrestleMania until you've gotten the main event for this year's WrestleMania. You don't want that to be overshadowed. And I think that would be overshadowing it. So I don't see it. I could, if Rock is able to be there, again, his schedule, he's running a football league right now, on top of movies and producing TV shows. So I don't think you want to shoot any angle this far in advance when you're not sure he can do it.
Yeah, I agree with all that. We got a few people who got thrown out here. We got Sev has said Mickie James in the Hall of Fame. Is she in the Hall of Fame?
Is she in the Hall of Fame? Let me double check. I keep feeling like she is.
I feel like everyone is. I don't. People tell me they're not.
Right? Yeah. But I don't think she is. Let me double check. Yeah, no, she's not. She's not in the Hall of Fame. So she could be one. I don't see that this year, but who knows? I would think they'd want a tag team. Usually they have a tag team going in. Last year was the Steiners.
Yeah, speaking of, Leo Bowden says, I hope Luger and Demolition make the Hall of Fame. I had mentioned Luger a second ago, but also Demolition. I know they're your guys, so you
My guys.
must really want them in.
Yeah, they had the lawsuit with WWE, so I don't see I don't see that happening. But if the lawsuits are done, which they are, I just feel like you got to let bygones be bygones and induct some of these guys.
Yeah, especially,
Kamala, I don't think is in. King Kong Bundy is not in. Who main evented a WrestleMania.
yeah, especially when it's gotten so far in the rearview mirror. Like
Right.
at some point, it's wrestling. Like you always say, if you're gonna bring Bret Hart back to have a match with Vince McMahon, you got to learn to just let certain things go.
Yeah.
Baby Ice adds Midnight Express need to be and should have been in there already.
They could be.
They could be, yeah. I don't think you'd get many arguments there. Shane Helms is what I'm getting for someone who could induct Stacy Keibler.
Induct Stacy Keibler or be inducted with fully inducting him? I wonder if.
Or Shane Helms, yeah. Sorry, I read Sky High added George Clooney could induct Stacy Keibler.
I don't see that happening.
No, I don't think so either. Adam McFarland pitches the Nasty Boys.
They're not, no.
And then what about Kevin? Is Kevin Sullivan in the Hall of Fame?
No.
And then, of course,
never appeared on WWE TV live.
We also got Victoria should be inducted into the Hall of Fame.
I think a lot of the names mentioned, it's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
It's just, they can't induct everybody in 1 year, but I agree with Victoria. Yep.
Moondogs.
Yeah. They're not in.
And then Adam Buxton. Oh, here, Jack, what do you think about Shane Helms inducting Stacy Keibler? Sure. Shane Helms is a good talker. And then we also got Jay Briscoe for the Warrior Award as one, and Randy Orton for Hall of Fame. Randy Orton's going in.
He's probably going to be a headliner.
Yeah, oh, for sure. He's for him it's more a matter of where do they want to put him in as opposed to will he or won't he
right
at this point.
So lots of there's a ton here. British Bulldogs, I 100% agree. I'd love to see that. Yeah. Davey Boy's in as a singles, but yeah, they're not in as a tag team. And you always get your Shawn and Diesel and tag teams like that. Rock, obviously Rock has to be inducted first, but Rock and Sock, I think China needs a solo induction. So you have people that are already in the Hall of Fame that could be in for a tag team.
Yeah, that's crazy. The Rockers, yeah. That's speaking of lawsuits and things keeping people out. But Antoine Fair with a super chat says, "I've seen a theory I wanted to be shared. What if Cody wins and then for whatever reason the win is invalid or rescinded and giving the title back to Roman? Other words, Cody gets dustied."
I don't think WWE will do that for their biggest show of the year.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
Yeah, if it was some other pay-per-view, maybe, but not for WrestleMania. And this is their biggest show that they've ever done as far as number of tickets sold, the number of people that are going to be watching, the gate, everything. It's breaking all records. So you don't want to go out, with something like that.
Yeah, especially for a show like this, that's also going to be very expensive to go to. You don't want everyone to go home thinking, "Oh, so it didn't matter."
Yeah, and this is going to get a ton of media pub too. Like there's going to be a bunch of stories about it. So you don't want it to be like WrestleMania goes out in a thud, or especially when WWE has so much momentum, you want to keep that momentum going. Yeah,
I have a feeling Cody wins and he just wins outright. And then I think we move on to Jay versus Roman, but I'm always wrong about
There's so many ways they could go.
Which is
Cody winning kind of refreshes the top a lot, because now you could turn Drew heel, do Cody versus Drew. When Randy Orton comes back, there's a natural storyline there. You got Sammy, you could do babyface versus babyface. It's just a ton of stuff. Obviously Cody versus Roman again.
KO.
KO. I mean, it's just
Lashley.
Everything is new. Yeah.
Uncle Howdy. We won't get in trouble no, but seriously, like Omos versus Cody, much like Omos versus Brock, would be a spectacle, and I'd be here to see it. I'd be okay with that.
You just be curious how it goes. Yeah.
Right. And Cody would make it work. I would have faith in Cody to make it work. Yeah. We do see, speaking of after WrestleMania, though, WWE is going to go on a bit of a world tour, and it was just announced that not only will Backlash be in Puerto Rico, but SmackDown will be in Puerto Rico as well, from the same arena the night before Backlash. So it looks like Puerto Rico getting a double dip, so to speak, with 2 shows. I'm a big fan of it. I love the fact that they're traveling outside of the States. I think that makes the whole brand feel more worldwide. Any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I think anytime you go out of the continental US, it's very cool. We saw AEW last night with that crowd in Canada. It was just insane how hot they were. Anytime they go to Canada, the crowds are amazing. So I love to see it. I hope they do more of it, and I think it's great. And SmackDown, it made all the sense of the world since Backlash is the next night. I think it's a great move.
Yeah. Wow, we got a lot of other stuff too. Antoine Fair saying, let me clarify, not at Mania. They take it back to the next night, not at Mania, but on Raw.
I
can't imagine I can't think of a single time where they did something, had a big moment, and then they said, never mind, that didn't count. And everyone was like, oh, that was good.
Yeah. You don't want to play with the momentum you got right now.
Yeah, I feel like everyone just go, okay. I guess.
Did you get my email about the ratings?
I did, but I did not put it in my notes.
Okay.
So I'm going to pull it
gotcha.
up. No.
Let me just go through those real quick, and we could get those out of the way. Real quick, AEW Dynamite, the ratings just came in a little bit ago. For the show last night in Canada, they did 852,000 viewers, down 1% from last week, and a 0.27 18 to 49 rating, down 7%. Year over year, they were down 14% total viewers and down 29% in 18 to 49. So again, you're seeing the big year-to-year drops, and that 0.27 rating was one of the lowest that they've done since NXT moved to Tuesday night. So something AEW is clicking with their audience as far as the people attending the shows. The crowds are hot for their shows. It's not like you're watching it and it feels dead or anything like that, because it doesn't. But they're missing something where their ratings are dropping year over year at the time when WWE, because it's not a wrestling is dropping. It's AEW is down. I mean, 30% basically year over year is a lot, while WWE has been up almost every week year over year. So with Raw and SmackDown. So they need something. I mean, it's easier said than done. But
I feel like what they need is consistency, I think, right now. Because personally, I see in the chat, and Scott Allen swearing we're in very different frame of thoughts. I thought AEW has been incredible since Revolution. Like once Revolution started, that pay-per-view started, it's been great since then. But I think they sometimes will get these hot streaks and they're great, and then it fades off and you get a bunch of these like matches that don't matter and stuff that doesn't really go anywhere. And then that's when people start to fall off. I think the past 2 weeks have been great. I just think now they need to keep what they're doing.
Yeah. And like last night, I thought I really enjoyed the opening segment and the closing segment. Right. But the opening segment, unless you follow up with AEW online and all the news and know about, people complaining on Twitter and all this stuff, you're probably not going to understand most of that promo,
Right.
the references that they're making. And so for a newer fan, it's hard when it's all inside. And and I really like the Elite storyline that they're doing with Hangman Page. I don't know where it goes, but again, a newer fan, we'll see. I hope next week that they do something where they kind of, clue the fans in that maybe hadn't been watching over the last 2 years or whatnot.
Definitely take advantage of the highlight packages, and I think use more time like on commentary to tell the story of why things matter instead of I know there are two different frames of thought on this, but instead of the call, you don't need to call every move during a match, but maybe explain this is what they're saying, this is why this is happening, etc. So that if I am new, I go, oh, okay, I get it. This is what's happening.
Yeah, and another point with Powerhouse Hobbs last night. He got assistance from QT Marshall last week, and it wasn't really explained what their association was. Instead, they did that, TMZ spoof, and it's like, explain the story between these guys, and give Hobbs a big moment after winning the title last week. Anyway,
yeah, I think to highlight Hobbs is the important thing there, as opposed to everything else. But that said, I want to be careful because I know there's I know there's a it's a firing range out here talking about
no. Yeah.
But we will talk about that in a little bit. We're going to see where this goes. I'm not going to let you off the hook. We're going to talk a little bit about QTV, but we're going to save that till the end. I do want to talk to Timothy Birmingham. Says, is Cody supposed to win both belts or just the belt for Raw? Raj, I don't know where this is coming from. I feel like they've been very consistent in implying that it's for everything at WrestleMania, but there's still a group of people that seem to think that this is them splitting the titles. Have you heard anything or seen anything that would imply that this is only for one title?
It's for one title. Cody, I think, has said he'd like to have the title split up again, and it goes both ways. I think when you have one title, that one title means so much more. When you have two titles, you always have the one world champion that feels more, like the more important champion than the other world champion. So, but. Like if Roman were to win, I almost say you should have a second title, so Raw has one. But if you have Cody win and he could do both shows, I'm not saying he should be on both shows every week, but he should do a program on SmackDown. When that program's done, then he moves to, goes to Raw. And you kind of have the world champion going back and forth between two territories, basically.
I agree. I think that's the way to do it, because people always forget like you said, whenever, like before Roman had both titles, the other title never felt like the main title anyways. So what's the point? You might as well just have it be the US title or the Intercontinental title if it doesn't feel like the main title anyways. We're not stupid. We know there's one main guy,
Yeah, and I think they should do it for the women's titles. I think they should do it for the US and Intercontinental, merge them, and the champions just go back and forth between both shows.
I agree. I think you should have one person that is the champion of WWE.
Yeah. Already 3 of the titles are more or less unified, or there's one set with the tag team, women's tag teams, and the world. So might as well do the others.
Yeah, I agree. I 100% agree. We do have a few more following up. Jack Roman saying they already said Roman is staying champ and he will defend the WWE title only at Backlash.
Who said that?
I don't know where you're getting your information, Jack, but you should probably check out Wrestling Inc. or something. I don't know. I've not seen that, but I would not trust that at all. James Winter adds in, with Cena not likely to be around post-Raw after Mania, how about he beats Theory and then Jay White squashes him on Raw for a big debut? I'm a fan of Jay White, but I just cannot imagine Cena beating Theory only to get squashed by someone else coming in.
Yeah, I mean, if you could do a competitive match, I don't think you squash Cena the next night or 2 nights later, depending on depending
Yeah,
on what
yeah.
night Cena's match is. You know, you get my drift. But um, the thing with Jay White, the that audience, there's probably going to be a good chunk with the post Raw audience that'll know who Jay White is. But other weeks, there's not going to be. So, in my opinion, I'd like to see Jay White be built up a little with either
Mm-hmm.
through vignettes or something to introduce, because the vast majority of WWE fans are not going to know who he is. They don't know who Bronson Reed is when he came in, and he was on NXT forever. So,
Yeah. If looking at the reactions the crowd gives to NXT talent should be a big eye opener for how they're going to react to someone from New Japan coming in. And not a shot against him. I'm not saying people don't know him. I'm just saying this particular audience may not have seen him before.
Yeah. And I think Jay White could be a really big star in WWE. He has it all. He can go in the ring. He's got good size for WWE. He can talk, and I think he's going to be a big star, assuming that's where he goes.
Yeah, he'll do just fine. That said, speaking of someone who has chosen where they're going to go, Taya Valkyrie is all elite. Former WWE and Impact Wrestling star debuted on AEW last night on Dynamite and confronted Jade Cargill following Jade's match with Nicole Matthews. Raj, I've been saying that AEW has a problem because I don't know of anyone who could stand next to Jade Cargill and look like they have a chance at beating her. But seeing that segment last night, I felt like Valkyrie might be the person.
Yeah, I thought it was great. I like how they did it because, when they first said an open challenge from someone from Canada, I thought it was going to be Taya, and I'm glad they didn't just squander that. I don't think Taya should beat Jade coming right in with how long Jade's streak has been, built. But if she gets over, why not? If she remains hot, she could be. So, and I'm glad that Jade didn't beat Taya her first night in. So I really like how they did that angle. I thought it was really well done.
Yeah, I think that someone like Valkyrie is someone that's going to be I think is a good step for AEW to help bolster that division, because not only is she actually a great wrestler, but she does have that name that has been around. So people who know names like hers are going to be excited about it. She's going to win over the AEW fans fairly quickly, I think. And again, she looks like she could take on Jade because frankly, she's got the size. She's big enough to, as opposed to a wrestler that if they came in and you'd be like, Jade looks like she could choke slam you. What are you doing here? It looks like Taya could actually fight her. So I think that's good for everybody. And we'll see how they follow up on it. But so far, so good. Someone who's not going to AEW, Raj, and they made it very clear, are the Garcia Twins. Now, some of you are probably asking, who the heck are the Garcia Twins? Well, they used to be the Bella Twins. Now they're the Garcias. They're going by their real names now, but they said they are not going to AEW. They made that perfectly clear. What do you think about the Bellas going by their real name and not going to AEW?
Well, yeah, their contracts with WWE ended, and they didn't come to an agreement on renewing. So WWE owns that name. So yeah, I think look, there's so many times where someone says they're not going to go to AEW or WWE. Cody said he'd never go to WWE, and here we are. So I don't think it's out of the range of possibilities that they do stuff for AEW. I don't see them becoming full-time wrestlers again. Nikki has really bad neck issues, so I definitely don't see her becoming a full-time wrestler again. But I could easily see them doing some appearances here and there, especially with Bryan Danielson there, and Nikki having no attachments to WWE really.
I think it's just smart of them to. One, I think you're right. A lot of people say I'm not going there, but if the plan was for them to go there, they're not going to say, "Yeah, I'm going there" before they've signed contracts and things like that. That's just a bad move. And even if you do sign, you want the surprise, so you're going to say, "Nope, not going there."
It always seems like the more people say like that are free agents that I'd love to go to AEW or something or WWE, the less that the company wants them because it almost seems too desperate. You want the ones that are like, I'll do whatever.
You got to play a little hard to get. You can't be too on the nose. But I also look at them going to their real name, and I think of Mercedes Moné and how she's been able to do so much outside of WWE beyond wrestling, even and acting and things like that. I wonder if, and this is just speculation, if they're seeing her success and thinking, you know what, we need to get our own name out there so we're not tied to this company anymore. We can start doing our own stuff. Not in a negative way to WWE, but just I wonder if they're thinking maybe we've outgrown this. Maybe we can do something different.
Yeah, and it's funny because it's going to take me a while to stop calling them the Bellas.
Yeah,
but the Garcias, they're really well known outside of wrestling. When you talk about who's known outside of wrestling, with them with the reality shows and everything, you'd be surprised how many people know them. Miz is another one that's actually really pretty well known outside of wrestling. So. But yeah, everyone does know him as the Bella Twins, so it's going to take a little bit to rebrand.
They're actually, when we talk about the household names conversation, but we won't go down that road too far. But I'm not saying they're household names, but you're right. I think if you were to do one of those polls of do you know who these people are, I think people would be shocked at how many people know the Bellas as opposed to other wrestlers that wrestling
Seth Rollins or someone else, that
right.
Yeah.
Right. I think that they're probably way more known than people because they were on, not that it's the biggest show in the world, but was it Bar Battles or whatever? The
the Bar Rescue or something like that.
Or it was with Carson Daly and they do it was after one of the wrestling shows. It was I think it was after Raw for a while or something.
You mean just recently, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
they were on there as a guest. Barmageddon. That's what it was.
I don't know if that increased their profile that much, but you would be surprised how many people watch Total Divas and Total Bellas later. I mean, those shows, even though the first airing rating may not have been the biggest, they would air those shows all the time. I mean, they kept renewing them, and they just did the one, just recently with her, Nikki getting married. I think I'm forgetting what that one was about, but yeah, they did really well on the TV front outside of. I mean, it was still WWE adjacent, but it was a pretty different audience, and I think it pulled in a lot of women into like Raw and SmackDown. That first saw them on Total Divas and Total Bellas.
Yeah, and I should say, when I say Barmageddon, I'm not saying they got that made them blow up. What I meant is that's who they asked was the Bella. They didn't ask Charlotte Flair or Bianca Belair or any of them. They asked the Bellas to be on the show, which I think is a signal of that they stand out more than the people us wrestling fans may think stand out more.
Yeah, and Samantha's pointing out Nikki was also a part of AGT Extreme.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
I never saw that. I don't know if it was good, I guess.
That's America's Got Talent, right?
Extreme. Yeah. I think.
Yeah, I don't know.
Bush on the Go Big show. No, I don't know.
No. That gave Cody his big boost.
Yes, that's how you know he's a star. He was on the Terry Allen with a super chat. Are you both concerned with the new direction for Otis? Absolutely not. That is such an entertaining bit. Maximum Male Models is one of the best comedy bits they've had in a very long time, I think. What about you, Raj?
I haven't been a Maximum Male Models fan. But I do like Otis in it. It is kind of funny. You can't turn away from it. And Otis kind of back in this kind of silly, goofy character. His stuff with Mandy Rose was just starting to build when the pandemic hit. You never really got the big payoff, and then they turned him when he first turned heel. He had they took away all his character, and now he's getting it back. So I don't hate it. I actually kind of enjoy it right now, but we'll see where it goes. I mean, I just feel like Gable and Otis kind of ran its course. They had been together a long time, and there wasn't much else they could do with it.
There's also, they've taken so many losses at this point, it's hard to bring them back. But there's an alternate universe out there where the pandemic didn't happen and Otis became the world champion, I think. Because
that might have been the plan, because he won Money in the Bank.
Yeah, he was hot for a while with that. Yeah. So we'll see. But we've got a couple of questions that we got off of Twitter. I'm going to run them by you here. The first one's a kind of a big one. I'm surprised we haven't talked more about. At Jericho130 asks or wants us to talk about AEW adding a third show and get our thoughts on that. Raj, I want your thoughts. But first, is this the reality show, or is this another wrestling show in addition to that All Access show?
It sounded like it's an additional show. But nothing's been confirmed. AEW hasn't been denying it. So I mean, I think the biggest thing is that's a big deal for AEW that their TV partner is adding more content of their content on in a TV rights renewal year. So to me, that's the most newsworthy thing out of it. Now, on the other hand, does AEW need more TV? When the Battle of the Belts is now something that airs on after Rampage every few months and no one watches. Rampage ratings have dropped tremendously. And do you need a C show? Do you really make an effort to make it an A show? Unless it's live, I don't see them doing that. So, if it beats everything that TBS or TNT have on at that time, I think it's fine for them. But I don't see it being any kind of a game changer or anything like that.
Well, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what their plan for it is, because if it isn't the All Access show, it makes me wonder if it'll be almost like one of those WWE used to have them where they were kind of just recap shows of the week and they just sort of talked about what happened. Or maybe this is a Ring of Honor show. I don't know if this counts.
It's not. And that's the thing. That's the interesting thing, is that they wouldn't bring a Ring of Honor a show, but they're willing to bring this show on.
That says a lot about the Ring of Honor situation, I think.
Yeah, I think the brand. I think a lot of hardcore wrestling fans think a lot more of the brand than people outside of wrestling do.
Yeah, because if they're saying, "Yeah, we want more wrestling, just not that wrestling," that's a very strong statement. Hopefully Ring of Honor gets TV time. I'm a big fan of people getting TV time. So I want opportunities, but I would take that as a big gut punch if I was Ring of Honor.
Killer Demon 669 saying AEW Saturday night, love it. I mean, I would actually no. I was going to say I'd like to see them do that old studio format, but we've seen the NWA do it, and after a while, it's cute for a few weeks, and then it kind of loses its charm.
Yeah, it does start to hurt. The charm is great. You're right. The first few weeks, and then you're kind of okay.
If you're to find a way to modernize it, but even then, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
we'll see. We'll see what he has in mind.
But
more and more content, the more and more content you add, I feel like the less and less everything else means.
Yeah, already it feels that way with it's tough to want to get hyped up for Rampage, and it's not a pre-tape thing. It's just there's so much wrestling on TV.
Yeah, I mean the live Rampages haven't been doing well, so yeah.
So we'll have to see, and then. At Lancelot24 said Jack Farmer, I see a story going around that wrestlers want to leave AEW. We talked about this before the show started, but I haven't seen this story, at least not anything specific. I would say in general, any company that's big has some people that don't want to be there and some people that do. But I don't know of any issue. Do you?
Yeah, there are some, and you've seen the rumblings on social media. You've seen Sammy Guevara call out Andrade before, about it, and there are others you can kind of tell at times where, when Triple H got in power, all of a sudden people that thought WWE that door was closed, all of a sudden they're like, oh my gosh, maybe it's not.
Lance says it's on Ringside News.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, it's been talked about for a while, ever since Triple H came back, and you saw William Regal get out of his contract. Yeah, I mean, that's going to be the wrestling business both ways. AEW gets hot again. If WWE starts getting cold and they start not utilizing their talent as well, it's going to go back the other way. So, when AEW started, you hear about like a lot of top guys that were kind of curious to see what they could get at AEW. So it'll go both ways, and I think that's best for everyone when it's like that. I mean, not best that you want to leave the company,
right?
But when you have two options and you can kind of go back and forth if you're not happy with one. The only thing is sometimes, and this goes for WWE and AEW, is if you make a mistake and sign that contract, you're locked in for a long time. So you need to make sure when you sign those contracts that you know what you're doing.
And I always say the grass is always greener, and it goes both ways. If you're not happy in one place, I don't know if I would necessarily burn a bridge to get to the other, because once you're over there, if you're unhappy, where do you go? What do you do? So if you're one of the wrestlers, I know when Triple H took over, as you alluded to, there was a lot of guys who left WWE who now suddenly wanted to go back to WWE. But it's also a little bit like, why would they take you back? You left. Well, some of them were let go.
I think most of them were released.
but a lot of them were people who complained also about not getting TV time and things like that. So I don't know. I would just be very careful to say, I want to leave my current job that probably pays pretty good when you don't know what's sitting on the other side for you.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see. So we got at Disconnect Y asks, this is a great question for you and kind of a segue to chat about. We have a show called Practical Money you can check out. At Disconnect Y asks, when's the best time to buy WWE stock?
When they went public.
Yes.
I don't want to comment on WWE stock just because it's, kind of a conflict of interest, but I would say this, just with the market in general right now, I am buying more, when the market's down, trying to put more and more in. I dollar cost average in general. So automatically putting in each week into S&P 500 index funds. And then when there's really bad weeks, I try to add to my long-term positions for stocks. So, and I feel like, your long-term stocks, when prices are down, jump in. That's not financial advice. That's what I do.
Right. So I guess the big thing there is, instead of trying to time the perfect time to buy something because you think it's going to shoot up, think long-term would be what I would do, and what you say you do.
Yeah, and check out Practical Money. We talk about this in a couple of our videos. So youtube.com/@practicalmoney, and we talk about investing in an index fund over time and how much it's, what it's done for me. So check it out.
We got a super chat going back to the Hall of Fame stuff. Terry Allen Jr. saying Jim Johnson Hall of Fame.
Amen. I'm all for it. 100%. He should. I feel like he should be in there.
I mean, the soundtrack to many of our youths when it comes to pro wrestling, Jim Johnson. So
Ultimate Warrior, Undertaker, they're not the same without their music. Demolition. I mean, everyone,
right.
Those Jim Johnson tunes were just iconic.
And there's so many of them.
Stone Cold. Yeah.
Like so many of them for so many years and decades. It's just so much time. We got another one from at Matt Marks 2021. Once our comment on the rumor that we're getting Stone Cold Steve Austin versus LA Knight.
I don't think Stone Cold's wrestling, but I could see a segment with Stone Cold and LA Knight. I'd love to see it. I think LA Knight's just killing it. I think he's definitely got some spot on WrestleMania. He's not going to be doing these weekly things talking about there's no WrestleMania in LA without LA Knight. So yeah, him and Austin. The only thing I hope is that it leads to bigger and better things, as opposed to it being like Elias, when Elias did the stuff with The Undertaker and Cena before, and it didn't elevate him. He was kind of in that same spot. And I think LA Knight, he's getting to that point where he's getting the responses, and he's not getting heel responses. He's getting baby faces responses, and that's hard to get. So the fans are getting behind him, and that's hard to do. And you just got to run with this guy.
Yeah, I think everything about LA Knight just screams megastar, to use his own terms. I mean, he gets the reaction. He's exciting. Everything he does, I'm caring about. I'm interested in what he has to say. If you said to me just Monday, like, oh, it's going to be LA Knight versus Cody Rhodes, I was like, yeah, like I was into it. I wanted to see it. And so I think that hopefully he has a very good 2023. I don't know if it's going to get better before WrestleMania, though.
Yeah. Real quick. Let's see. Veggie Gamer here saying, I can see LA Knight marking out in the best way if that happens. Absolutely. Obviously, you could see traces of Stone Cold and The Rock in his character. So it would be huge for him. And again, I see him just having a great year this year. And one more. Killer a Demon 669 Girls in Cars. That effing slaps. I don't know if you remember that song, but Strike Force had it. There was another song on that Pile Driver album called Crank It Up.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
And like every wrestler, having a tryout match, The Rock came out to it. They would all come out to that song. That was the wrestler that no one knows come out to that music. So I think the trivia question of which entrance music got used the most, that has to be it.
Yeah, now that you mentioned that, probably that one. Speaking of marking out real quick for Stone Cold, I got to interview Kevin Owens last year before WrestleMania. It was part of a panel. There was a couple of us interviewers. And my good pal, Evan Mack, asked him, how does it feel knowing that he may be the last person to wrestle Stone Cold? This was before WrestleMania happened. So we asked him.
Yeah.
And Kevin Owens is, at least in my one interview with him, very unshakable, very just kind of like Kevin Owens is Kevin Owens. But when he asked him that, there was definitely a hesitation, and you could see just a little bit of like twinkle in his eye and like a little bit of like, oh my God, I might be the last guy to wrestle Stone Cold Steve Austin, and you could tell like that actually hit him pretty hard. He gave a great Kevin Owens answer, of course, but there's that moment where you're like, ooh, this is big.
What's weird? The last person to almost wrestle Stone Cold Steve Austin was going to be Jonathan Coachman if Austin didn't pull out of that match. I don't know if Coachman felt that same gravity, but
that would have been the weirdest stat I think you could have ever found.
And he was booked to win. Coach was booked to win, which is still the craziest thing. It just showed how wacky WWE got during that time.
I can't imagine a better final opponent for Stone Cold than McMahon, but if he's coming back, I'm here for it. So then we got one last one, and this is the big one, Raj. You ready?
I know what it is.
You ready?
Let's go.
Okay, let's do this thing. At M_Harazin. I don't know if I'm saying that right. I apologize. HARAZIN asks, I guess asking me, what are my thoughts on QT Marshall going after Wrestling Inc. podcasters on Twitter? I didn't see everything, Raj. I just know that you guys got into it. But tell me, what's going on? Are we in a feud with the factory?
No. I'm all cool with QT now.
Thank goodness, because I can't take Nick Camarado. I'll tell you, he'll kill me.
No, last Wednesday, I posted a couple things about Dynamite, almost all positive. Seriously, I liked most of the show. I said the last 5 minutes sucked, which it did. The crash pad looked terrible. The crowd was crapping on it. They went silent, and what was the other? And Wardlow lost the title just a few days after winning it. So QT got upset about it and sent something, and then he got mad about another tweet I made about, I just don't get Wardlow's booking, because again, it's so hard to get a hot baby face. They did it, and he's just been cooled off greatly over last year. And then QT got upset, tweeted some stuff, and should have just let it go. And I did for a couple days. Then I had a bad night Friday night. Had some it was some stuff with my daughter's competition, and they were upset, and then that got me upset, and I'm at home alone. I'm still getting tweets about it, and I reacted in a way I shouldn't have. It was beneath me. I don't, over the years, there's been tons and tons of times where wrestlers have been unhappy about an article or something, feeling they were misquoted or something like that. And yeah, I deal with them personally, and usually it works out. This was a rare time where it's over my opinion of something on a show.
Right.
So it's actually the only time I can think of that it happened. But it's his thing, and clearly this is a kind of a new gimmick he's doing. And he went out after some other reporters last night, not maliciously, but as part of the gimmick. And
right,
cool. Maybe I was the first to kind of get it going, but I shouldn't have responded on Friday. So I did apologize to QT. I shouldn't have done that Twitter exchange. I did not apologize over my opinions about Dynamite. I still believe that those to be true. And that's it.
Yeah, so you are kind of the springboard for this entire QTV thing we're getting now.
I think he had it planned out and used me as I don't know if I was the first, but I think I was the first that he kind of came after last week. But
yeah,
but well, we'll see. But yeah, I think he's doing his thing. He's that QT segment. If you liked it, you liked it.
I will say this, that I get, we get negative comments about us sometimes. I get it. It sucks. It sucks when someone's like, oh, that I didn't like that. I got a negative comment because I started the Revolution review talking about news instead of not talking about Revolution. We do that every single time. I was told that was the greatest pay-per-view of all time. Why am I talking about news? And I was like, well, it was a great show. Don't get me wrong, but best of all time. Let's pump the brakes a little bit here. But so I totally get it sucking when you hear someone doesn't like what you did or what you were a part of. But at the same time, it kind of comes with the territory too.
And you know what? I didn't say anything about QT when I said I didn't like the last 5 minutes of Dynamite. It really, it wasn't. It was just the whole thing. I thought the last 5 minutes just took away from the whole, the whole show. But anyway.
But in any case, I don't think he's going after Wrestling Inc. directly.
Right. And Alfred, he works mostly for Forbes. He does a couple of the podcasts here, but his writing is mostly for Forbes.
I will say I love Alfred. Alfred does come at AEW pretty hard too.
Well, he doesn't hold back. I mean,
I'm not saying he's got an agenda. I'm just saying he definitely. I can see why someone would get a little upset after a while at Alfred if you worked at AEW. I can understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, that's why I had him only, I had him only do WWE podcasts. Right. I don't run the podcast anymore. Like you said, new owners for Wrestling Inc. I'm not a part of that section anymore.
Yeah. Alfred and I are good too, by the way.
Me too. I love Alfred.
I love Alfred. But I see what he posts. I feel like I'd be pretty upset if I worked at AEW with him.
But it's funny, if I have someone who posts anti WWE stuff, because there used to be some podcasters that, in the past, we had Matt Morgan for years, who would openly say he prefers AEW. He wants AEW to beat WWE. He was all in for AEW, and we never got any. We never see backlash to Matt for that. But
well, Matt's huge, so of course
that's part of the reason.
No, it says anything. Like, oh, cool, Matt. I agree.
Yeah, not to his face, but on Twitter.
Yeah, that's
a lot of Twitter warriors on there.
That's very true too. But yeah, on our end, by the way, QT tweeting us. All publicity is good publicity, right?
No. It's all love. I did, I've never had an exchange with a wrestler like that before, because I have all the respect in the world for what they do. And and QT does wear a lot of hats. He trains, he works behind the scenes, and he wrestles. So I have a ton of respect for that. So I regret the exchange on the one night, but I don't regret giving my opinions on a show on Twitter.
Well, that being said, I think we need to have a can they coexist tag team match, and then we'll wrap it all up. I think that does it for us. We did get one question, I guess, because it's an easy one that we'll wrap it up with. But Timothy Birmingham asks, how come the Usos don't have a match for WrestleMania, or do you see it happening with KO and Sami Zayn taking them on? Raj, I think that's exactly what's going to happen. But
I think they should start getting on it, because I don't know. I understand that you want some matches announced the week of, because you're doing that build, and then you want it to crescendo or whatever, the week of. But I feel like your biggest matches, like one that could potentially be the main event for one of the nights, I feel like you got to have that announced a few weeks ahead of time. So, Friday, Monday, I think they need to get that soon, because Ray and Dominic doesn't seem like it's happening yet, and so you need a couple of those big matches up there.
We got two episodes, 3 SmackDowns, 2 Raws left. Is that right?
Is that right? Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
They got to get on that. They got to get that one booked. But I keep saying stuff like that, but everything they do with that story, I'm like, oh, this is great. I like it. I'm not going to. So I keep saying they need to do this, and then they do whatever they do. And I go, oh no, that was good.
Yeah. So I kind of stay out of the way. I tried not to criticize much lately with them creatively because of what you said. Because ultimately, then later you're like, oh yeah, that was good.
That was good.
When Brock and Omos, when someone brought that up, and I was like, what? And then when you see it, it's kind of like, oh, this is gonna be fun. It could be a mess. I'm sure they'll rehearse it out. But you saw the reaction on that on Raw, and they did kind of botch the. They completely botched the Omos throwing Brock out of the ring. But man, the fans were hot for it. It's got tons of YouTube videos, more than anything else on WWE this week. So not everything is for the hardcore wrestling fan.
Yeah, I don't think that him going over the top rope was as big of a deal as some people made it out to be. It was a mess up. I don't think it ruins everything, but
I think it's one of those things people are looking for reasons to crap on it.
Yeah, because that happens more often than we care to admit, that same kind of scenario. But I will say my buddy, who's a big MMA fan but doesn't watch wrestling, sent me the image of them, and he said, who is this giant? And so unprovoked, I know someone found out about the thing, and you see that image of them, chest to face, and you're like,
yeah,
Brock's a big fella, and he looks like a child next to this guy. This is insane. But
yeah, unless there's an Austin segment or The Rock appears, I think if Brock F5's Omos, I think that's going to be the most viewed social media clip of that weekend.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, or unless Logan Paul amazes us again with some highlight reel moment, which could happen. Who knows? Yeah. But I think that does it for us. Before we go, I definitely got to give a shout out to everyone in the chat. Killer of Demons, Goodfella, Monge coming through, Veggie Gamer, Jane Young, Arthur, thanks for throwing up the deuces. Baby Ice, we got Night One. Jeffrey Sullivan, Lance Davis Jr., the experienced noob. You Know It coming through. Good to see you again. You Know It. Tornado Anthony Y, Brad, everyone else, Samantha, lots of folks today. Coming through, a lot of names I don't see all the time, so that's always really cool to see as well. So again, as we chatted about at the very beginning, this is a new show, so it's actually super important to get those likes, comments, shares, and subscribes. So if you're already subscribed to the channel, cool, but hit the like button and leave a comment, even if you're already in the chat. We've been chatting, and even if you're someone like Arthur, who we've already shouted out, just put a little comment in there and say, loved the stream, or a comment or thought, SEO stuff. Bosses love it. You know how that is, Raj. Forcing us to get these likes and comments.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly.
But before we sign off, Raj, where can the world find you online and all that good stuff?
And at the Raj Giri on Twitter, follow me and Jack at Practical Money, youtube.com/@practicalmoney. One of these days we'll do another one. We won't have a show next week. I will be in Disney World. So, but we'll be back the week after that.
Disney World out in Florida. That's pretty close to Jacksonville, which means you
That's
could
right.
be fighting with. I don't think they're actually close to each other.
No.
But yeah, definitely check out the videos we have up on Practical Money. You can also find me at Real Jack Farmer across all social media. I'm going to be doing commentary for Santino Bros California Love, which is going to be opening GCW's The Collective slate of events on WrestleMania weekend. Check that out the morning of March 30th. And see me on commentary. Well, hear me on commentary. They're probably not going to show me that often, but you'll hear this voice talking about wrestling. So that'll be fun. If you're not in the area, you can check it out on Fight TV. That does it for us. We're done. So wherever you are next week or this week or wherever you heard this, good night, good morning, good evening.